They should definitely contact an attorney because they are entitled to be compensated.
What do you do if you're hit by a car while you're walking down the street? Well, that's our question today on Ask the Lawyer. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. My guest on this episode is attorney Kathleen Reilly with Brady Brady Reilly, based in New Jersey. Kate, thank you for making some time for us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
So let's see. Let's start with fault and no fault. Is New Jersey a fault or no fault state when it comes to pedestrian accidents, and what does that mean?
New Jersey is a no-fault state when it comes to pedestrian accidents. And what that means is that no matter who is at fault for the happening of an accident, whether you're in a car or you're a pedestrian, the medical bills portion of a claim is the responsibility of the person who's injured. So, for instance, if you're a pedestrian and you're struck by a motor vehicle, you would make a claim against your own car insurance company if you own a car. And that is the no-fault portion of our law. So that governs the filing of medical claims related to pedestrian accidents. You would apply to your own insurance company. Now, if you didn't have insurance, there is a state fund that we would make an application to in order to seek compensation for medical treatment.
So what are my options if I'm a pedestrian, I'm struck by a vehicle? What are my options for recovery? Is it just limited to what my insurance will cover?
Well, no, there's different components to your claim. So, for instance, the pedestrian's medical bills would either be paid if they or someone in their home, a resident relative, has insurance, has car insurance. Mm-hmm. There's mandatory medical coverage. So their medical bills would be submitted to that automobile insurance carrier for payment. At the same time, the pedestrian has the right to make a claim against the operator of the vehicle that struck them and to be compensated for their pain, suffering, economic losses such as wage loss and permanent injury.
And what if maybe is there a situation where the pedestrian is partially at fault or maybe a certain percentage at fault? Does that factor in at all?
Well, it does factor in, not with respect to the payment of the medical bills,
right,
but with respect to the compensation that you would seek from the party that struck you if the pedestrian has a percentage of responsibility. New Jersey is what's called a comparative law state. And what that means is that there's an evaluation that we make with respect to the responsibility of the motor vehicle that struck the pedestrian and the conduct or the actions of the pedestrian leading up to the accident. So if a case had a certain value, but the pedestrian was 10, 20, 30% responsible, the value could be diminished by their percentage of responsibility. But as long as the operator of the vehicle is 50% or more responsible, then the pedestrian's entitled to compensation.
So even if a pedestrian thinks, it might have been partly my fault, it still is in their best interest to contact an attorney to find out about the case and recovery, correct?
Absolutely. They should definitely contact an attorney because they are entitled to be compensated. And it's a factor of the severity of their injuries, the medical treatment that they undergo, and what their permanent injury is in order for us to determine what the value of their case is.
Kate, what if they think, well, I'm not sure I can afford an attorney in these situations?
Well, all cases that we take are taken on what's called a contingency fee basis. And what I always say to my clients is, you don't owe me any money unless I am able to get compensation for you. And then our fees are generally 1/3 of whatever we get for our clients. But if there's no recovery on behalf of an injured party, then they don't pay anything. They never pay anything up front. There would be payment out of any monies that we would obtain for the injured party.
We've talked in the past about what to do after a car accident. If you're you're in a vehicle and the other person's in a vehicle and there's a collision and you're injured. Is it similar, your advice for what people should do if they're a pedestrian? Or are there some differences?
Absolutely. You need to document everything. So obviously, You need to make sure, obviously it's going to depend on the severity of your injuries
Right.
and what you're capable of doing. But to the extent that you are physically capable of confirming the information about the motor vehicle that hits you, obviously the first thing you want to do is call the police. But you also want to, if you have a phone, take pictures of the person driving the vehicle, of the license plate, any documentation that helps show where the accident happened or where the vehicles ended up is helpful. But the most important thing is that there's a police report made if possible, and then to seek medical treatment and to seek the opinion of a lawyer so we can help you determine how best to proceed.
And I would assume sooner rather than later is always good advice.
Well, really important sooner rather than later today because of cameras. There are cameras all over the place, not only in urban areas, but in suburban areas as well. But the length of time that the video footage is available is limited. So it's important that we investigate and get out to the scene and determine if we can find any cameras that might show exactly what happened. In the urban areas, the municipalities often have cameras with the streetlights, and we're often able to get videos right from the intersection which show the accident and actually show the vehicle striking the pedestrian.
We've talked about uninsured motorist and underinsured motorist insurance coverage. If the person who causes the accident, who is at fault at the accident, doesn't have enough insurance, has no insurance, or maybe leaves the scene, does that still apply with pedestrian accidents?
Absolutely, it does. If the car that struck the pedestrian has no insurance, then the pedestrian, if they have insurance, motor vehicle insurance,
Right.
that is, they would make a claim against their own car insurance for uninsured motorist coverage. If the party that struck them had limited insurance, but the injured party had significant injuries, then to the extent of their available insurance, they could make a claim for what's known as underinsured motorist coverage to seek money in addition to what they received from the vehicle that struck them. Now, if the person who was the pedestrian did not have car insurance in their household, again, there is a New Jersey state fund that has a limited time period within which to submit an application. But we would submit an application to that fund, and there is $15,000 in statutory minimum coverage available to compensate that person if there was no insurance at all.
Lots of helpful information as always. Kate, thank you so much for taking time to answer our questions today.
Thank you, Ron.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been attorney Kathleen Reilly of Brady Brady Reilly in New Jersey. If you want the best information or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, make sure to go to askthelawyer.com first. Also, please take a second to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking below. Thanks for watching. That's going to do it. I'm Rob Rosenthal with askthelawyer.com.